Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to do an unscientific comparison of Wave, White Fox, and ARACHKNIGHT. They're all heroic quest characters, they're all speed types, they're all heroes, so they can only be obtained by spending crystals and grinding out for a month or two, and or using rank up tickets and tier 2 tickets to combine to get them to tier 2 to get them to their maximum potential. However, you'll notice that they're not all equally built. We've got an ARACHKNIGHT at level 70, but then White Fox and Wave are at level 62. Now, part of this comes from the fact that I need the biometrics that I would have used for White Fox and Wave to get Silver Surfer up to level 70. I'm pretty close on his potential, and he's going to take a massive amount of bios. I believe it's somewhere around 5,000 or 6,000. So yeah, I need those for him. I can't sacrifice them for White Fox and Wave. But additionally, it's important to be able to, and you might just think this is like a bullshit excuse, but you need to know how to identify whether characters are good or not even before you build them up to the maximum. Because on the one hand, sure, you can just watch my videos, you can watch other people's YouTube videos to find out how good these characters are at their maximum potential, but it never hurts to develop those types of skills. So even though ARACHKNIGHT is technically more well built, you should be able to see from other indicators whether he is still the best character. Now, it's not always guaranteed that those other indicators will tell you that, and you can take things, for example, like Strife level 60, everyone thought he was trash. Level 70, oh look at that, he can kill tier 3s and he's still relevant in PvP to this day. Same thing goes for Dr. Doom, and so on and so forth. So it's not a guarantee, but it's an important skill to have. So we're going to talk about some other indicators that we can use to gauge whether ARACHKNIGHT is actually better, or whether his level 70 and I believe three of his gears at 22, whether these small differences in his build actually do amount to anything or not. As far as the rest of his build goes, it's pretty much identical to the way that it was the last time you guys saw him when he was top 500. The only difference is I swapped out his regen, I unequipped it, and I gave him this guard break 180 damage proc because I do want to do a bit of a damage comparison. Now, his physical attack is 20,000, White Fox's is also 20,000, and Wave's is 19,200. So they're actually pretty evenly matched in the, her energy attack. But anyways, they're pretty evenly matched in the attack stat category as just a number, even though ARACHKNIGHT is level 70. So when you actually go ahead and look at the base stats of the character, and again, this is not the most important comparison, but I looked at them all at level 70 and I compared their base stats here. If you take a look, Wave is actually higher in the attack stat category than ARACHKNIGHT despite having the lowest HP, but White Fox comes in at number 1 with the highest overall base stats. I was shocked. She has, you know, more than 1,000 attack over, almost 1,000 attack more than Wave, more than 1,000 than ARACHKNIGHT, and she's got the highest HP. That's right, White Fox has a higher base HP than ARACHKNIGHT, who's supposed to be a combination of Spider-Man and Moon Knight. Moon Knight being this sort of, you know, extremely durable combat type who can self-heal. So pretty bizarre the way the stat distributions are. White Fox definitely gets the lion's share of things overall, not just when it comes to stats. You can also look at passive abilities. So ARACHKNIGHT basically only has one good passive, which is the heal. He also has, you know, 25% guaranteed dodge, which is okay, and he's got 15% recovery, which is negligible. But otherwise, he really doesn't have anything too impressive on his skills, except for webbing, which doesn't work against world bosses, and then he has all defense down, which doesn't work against world bosses. So he's kind of a weird sort of alliance conquest only character, because he's just not strong enough in PvP for one-on-one situations in something like Timeline, especially against tier 3s. Wave, on the other hand, while she may be weaker than ARACHKNIGHT individually in terms of the skills, she has more buffs, and she has a summon as well. She has self buffs as well. She has all defense down that can sort of selectively, I guess positionally, geographically, it deals all defense down, but she does have the advantage of a very strong tier 2 passive that buffs all allies, well, hero allies, and she has a very strong leadership for Namor, so she has more applicable use in your entire roster compared to ARACHKNIGHT, although she may be a little bit weaker as a standalone character. But then we have White Fox, who's basically the best of both worlds. A much stronger standalone character with skills that do things like Entomb, which is really strong for Shadowland. She also has her third skill, which sends out a bunch of foxes to help trigger your proc. Her fourth skill heals her for a lot of HP. I believe it's like 15 or 20% or 16 or 20%. It's a lot of different orbs that each hit for 2%. She also has self buffs. She has 5 seconds of immunity. She has a long iframe. She has 5 seconds of charm. She has a leadership that you can combine with characters like Weapon Hex or Deadpool to rack up more than 100% all defense down, because it increases the effect by 40%. So you can go up to 140% all defense down, and it increases the duration by 24%, which allows you to switch to other characters. It allows the stage 100 clear for Corvus, or the stage 99 clear with Sharon Rogers. And then on top of all of that, on top of the skills, on top of the leadership, she has a passive that is the strongest in the game in terms of a singular damage number, 60%, even though it only applies to allies with leadership. And I was wrong before. Cable, Angel, and Warpath all have the leadership passive, so there are 3 mutants right now that have it. And I did forget about Spider-Man having the invisibility with his Far From Home stealth suit, the Night Monkey. So thank you so much for the people in the comments that corrected me. So we're going to do a really quick sort of, again, not the most scientifically accurate barometer test here, but we're going to take these 3 characters in one at a time. None of their leaderships are really going to help them much at all against this rocket. You are going to see the damage dramatically drop off because he gets dodge, but we're basically just trying to see how much damage they deal. That was a pretty good proc on his 5th skill. His 5th skill deals the most damage. The good thing about ARACHKNIGHT is you can use him, oh, we procced on the 3rd skill by accident there, but you can use him for Shadowland to really lock down your opponents. But ignoring the chests, because I don't want to, or the sort of pots, I don't really want to influence the stage. If his AoE hits happen to trigger the proc, or trigger the breaking of the pots, that's fine. You can see the all defense down does apply here, but if it doesn't break it, that's fine. But you can see here he would have cleared the stage, or he'll probably clear the stage in about 40 seconds, or maybe a little bit longer than 40 seconds, but not too much longer. Missing procs and having the having the dodge come up does, slow things down, but he has the all defense down, and he's able to keep, whew, I got my heart pumping for a second. He's able to keep Rocket fairly locked down. So that is strong. But again, these are Shadowland type characters, so you are comparing their value in Shadowland. White Fox, I think, is going to be the strongest out of them all. We're going to do a pretty nice 3 cancel 5 combo for the proc, which is similar to what I was doing with ARACHKNIGHT, 3 cancel 5, except there's not going to be any all defense, but those foxes help trigger our proc. And then we're going to use 1 and 2 for defensive purposes to just keep him in place, and then we're going to trigger back again on 5. You can see, much like ARACHKNIGHT, there's so many different debuffs going on right now. There's Entomb, there's Charm, there's Bleed. He just basically can't do anything. She's probably going to finish this quite a bit faster, even though I'm kind of missing some of these procs. But you can see here that she would probably clear this in about 35 to 40 seconds if I would have played more aggressively and hit all these procs exactly on time. So, a comparable, probably slightly higher damage score. And she has a CTP of Destruction rather than having a 180 damage proc, but it's kind of comparable, just missing the crit rate for ARACHKNIGHT. And then finally we have Wave, the sort of disappointing character from the update, but that's okay. She's probably most likely, her and White Fox are most likely to get uniforms in the future. So unlike ARACHKNIGHT, there is more potential in store for her. I think especially with the popularity of Agents of Atlas, it's pretty much a guarantee that she's going to get something, but you can see her damage is actually quite good. She has the unfair advantage of having a CTP of energy, so even though I'm missing my procs here, I'm not really playing that aggressively. She is dealing the most damage because she doesn't have to worry about, or she doesn't have the damage reduction from Rocket dodging her attacks. We're going to try to trigger her proc here with 1 into 5. I'm not really sure exactly what skill would help proc her 5th skill the most. 4 seems to have possibly too many hits, and maybe 1 would actually be the best, but it seems like despite my horrid playstyle, she probably has about as fast of a clear as ARACHKNIGHT, possibly a little bit slower, because her base stats are, a little low, but comparable to Arachnight's actually, except the all defense down is not consistent, so that's why her damage kind of fluctuates. Now we're going to quickly jump into some world boss here. We're going to go in stage 25. We're not trying to do anything crazy. We're bringing in 50% ignore dodge from Spider-Man 2099, and then an extra 20% from Ronin. So this is not 100%. This is only 70% dodge. So there is margin for error. There is room for you know, things to go wrong, but this will give you sort of an idea of what you can expect when you get these characters. Again, I think it's pretty obvious already, but it's good to, you know, showcase the characters in a way that helps people see how they play and helps people see their strengths and their weaknesses. I honestly think that for everybody who's thinking about getting a heroic quest character, White Fox is by far the best one right now because she's the best standalone character. You can use her in some situations for World Boss Ultimate to take advantage of and amplify all defense down characters, and then she has the highest buff in terms of the actual damage values. So I think all of those things make her by far the best, but I know a lot of people like the webbed characters. They like their Spider-Verse heroes, and Arachknight is he's a very interesting character. His design is very unique, and he is basically a better version of Moon Knight, I would say. So if you're itching to play with Moon Knight and you just can't because he's obviously completely garbage, Arachnight's not a bad second option, and he does have value, albeit middling value in something like Alliance Conquest, because he can chain together iframes on 1 and 2 depending on how the AI treats his iframes and his skill rotation. But this took us about a minute with 70% dodge, which I think is actually quite good. Now, none of them have ignore dodge natively except for Wave, so in Wave's case what we're going to do is we're just going to sub out the other striker there, the Ronin. We're going to sub Ronin out just because it'll be a little bit more balanced, because she's going to get at least 25 or 30% ignore dodge from the CTP of energy, so she basically has the same dodge, or very roughly similar dodge to that of Arachnite. Again, despite not having level 70, not having her gears above 20, yada yada yada. I think possibly Wave could benefit more than some other characters from having her gears at or her level above 7, or her level at 70 and her gears above 20, because of the fact that she has pretty low base stats, and because you're not going to use her in PvP anyways. But it is it's a lot to pay. It's a really you know, it's an expensive cost for a character that's not even gonna make it, I think. Yeah, I'm very worried about her ability to survive the rest of this fight, man. She just gets hit so much. The wind-up iframes on 5, yeah, man. It's a stage 25. It's just like, listen, yeah, sure, I could give her a healing. Yeah, sure, I could give her anti-venom. I could give her this, I could give her that, but that's not the point. The point is, if she can't survive without, oh, there's a team up here. My bad. If she can't survive without massive help, you know, if you need 5 crutches to walk instead of just 2, there's something wrong, you know? I mean, yeah, it's just so obvious to me that Wave is probably the weakest one. She might be just as good as Arachnite for something like Shadowland if that's all you care about, but Shadowland, you know, if you can CC the enemy, Shadowland is really kind of irrelevant as long as you... Come on, White Fox. Come on, I'm dead. Can I heal from the 4th skill? This is fucking ridiculous, dude. I got hit by the corner of his shirt as he was using his paralyze skill. This is so dumb. She's dead. Corvus does not seem happy that I'm using him as a punching bag. That was complete bullshit. I was like 1 pixel too close to him when I triggered my 3rd skill, and that caused him to... oh my god, I got bled again. Wow, nice proc there, White Fox. Very awesome. Procking at the end of your 5th skill. Very ingenious. The good thing is, he's not going to have much time to move because he's going to be charmed. Now, I'm not getting any damage out of her because she refuses to proc on her obelisk, which is absolutely absurd. But, yeah, there's not too much I can do about that other than just do the rotation as we know it. And, yeah, when you get a good proc there we go, and we kind of charmed him as he was going into his next phase, so I think we skipped that phase. Yup, awesome. We skipped the entire phase because her charm was able to trigger, And this is the charm of White Fox, and this is what makes her good. There we proc too early. Honestly, I think my game is cursed right now. This is absolutely insane. I procced too late on like 3 procs in a row, and now I'm procking too early, which I didn't even think was possible for White Fox. Like, what is that? The whole skill goes through and no proc, and now of course it's gonna proc on the dogs. Where? Okay. I don't know what to say. I honestly think that my game is screwing with me. I guess it's the dodge. You know what? I guess it is the dodge. I just didn't anticipate it being this. Like, look at this. It's so inconsistent. It procced at the end of the skill 3 times, and in the meantime, it's procced before the skill 3 or 4 times as well. So the variance has been on the extremes. But this is a good showing because look at all that heal. She can basically heal back for her entire HP pool if you can hit all of those orbs. So man, like, it's pretty obvious in terms of overall value who's number 1. I think it's a hard yes, number 1 for White Fox. Second place, it's a little bit more of a toss-up between Wave and ARACHKNIGHT. Really depends on what you need and what you use them for. I think Wave is a lot worse for Alliance Conquest because on autoplay, you know, she only has 2 iframes and they're both wind-up iframes with 4 and 5. So she could easily get crowd controlled, easily get one-shotted before she gets into those iframes. And she's weaker in terms of her defenses. She's got 7,000 physical defense and 6,400 energy defense. He's got, you know, comparable defenses, but then he's got the 30% heal. So that really does count for a lot. And then, of course, White Fox has the highest base stats of all 3 of them for defenses as well. So yeah, I think it really comes down to what you need. Again, if you have a tier 3 Namor, I think Wave is obviously the second best choice, but I think White Fox is still the best choice for the heroic quest. I would probably say get her if you haven't, if you've been sleeping on her. I know some people message me, they're like, is White Fox really good? Should I do the heroic quest? I honestly think you should. The heroic quest is easy. You're not going to take 7 days to complete each week, so you can rush through it in 3 or 4 days, and then you can just play the way you want the rest of the 4 or 5 days until it resets for the next week. And she's a strong standalone character. She could probably do like 30, 35 for World Boss Ultimate, possibly higher if I actually build her for that instead of building her just kind of whatever. I could give her a CTP of energy, for example. It'll have more value. She's not going to use the destruction for PvP ever. But yeah, let me know what you think of these 3 heroic quest speed heroes. Do you like the fact that they're all speed characters, or do you want Netmarble to create more heroic quests with other types like Blast, Combat, or Universals? And if you could change one thing about the heroic quest beside the crystal cost, because don't be a smartass, what would you change? Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you would change. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.